Before sugar came in packages, sweetness was boiled from fruit. In today's Age Skills History episode, we travel to a farm near Hombourg on the German-Belgian border. Here, apples, pears, and plums are pressed and slowly cooked into what they called Kraut, following a rural tradition that endured for generations. To keep the fruits, which are processed unwashed, relatively clean, several linen sacks and a large canvas tarp are spread under the fruit trees over dirt and manure. The fruit is shaken from the trees with a 4 to 5 meter long wooden pole with an iron hook attached to the end. With the hook, one can grasp and move the branches. Harvest is a labor-intensive time in agriculture. In the neighboring field, for example, corn is currently being harvested. The fruit that has fallen from shaking is picked up and collected in baskets. The so-called Walloon plum baskets are about 35 centimeters high and have a volume of approximately 30 liters. At the Marquis farm, they process 2/3 pears and 1/3 apples, as well as plums for kraut cooking. The addition of plums is a specialty of the kraut cooker and serves to refine the flavor. The mixture can vary somewhat depending on the harvest, but 2/3 pears is the standard proportion. The production of kraut took place in the 19th century, up to our time, mostly in agricultural craft businesses. This allowed producers to cover their own needs and sell the surplus. While initially a simple technique with beam presses and manual labor, the farming kraut pressers automated the production process over time. This happened especially under competitive pressure from kraut factories. Many of these factories had developed in the second half of the previous century from already existing kraut presses. Centers of production were the Bergisches Land, the left Lower Rhine, and East Belgium. The harvested fruit is transported to the farm where it will be processed. The farm includes a separate outbuilding in which the Kraut cooking facility is located. The fruit is now unloaded and carried into the barn. In the right section, the oven is installed, on which the kettle with lightly cooked fruit already stands. The fruit is placed unwashed into the large kettle. An important prerequisite for making good kraut is that the fruits become soft but do not cook into mush. The round cooking kettle is made of brass and has 2 handles. It has a diameter of 1.2 meters with a height of almost 80 centimeters. The copper bottom is slightly recessed toward the center. Copper is used because it conducts heat well and is corrosion resistant. The kettle holds 1,200 weight of fruit, or nearly 1 cubic meter. When the kettle is filled to the upper edge, the fruit is covered with several linen sacks. This traps the heat in the kettle and facilitates the softening of the fruits. Wood must be added repeatedly. For the entire cooking process, one needs 1.5 to 2 cubic meters of wood. In this case, scrap wood is used. The process of softening takes, depending on the amount of fruit and firing, about 5 to 6 hours. The kraut cooker repeatedly checks the kettle contents. At the beginning of the cooking process, 70 liters of water were poured over the fruit to enable better softening. If necessary, some fruit juice is also added. For this, he uses the fruit juice that remained from pressing. When the fruit is soft cooked, it remains in the kettle with a small fire until the next morning, since hot fruit pulp presses better. Above the oven there is a roof hatch through which the steam escapes. The next morning, the soft cooked fruit is transferred into the press, together with the already released fruit juice. The tarps that served to cover the fruit are now removed and hung over a pole to drip off. The old wooden press from 1894 consists of a vat, the actual pressing device, and a collection trough with drain. After every 2 buckets of fruit mass, a tarp is placed in the vat. It serves to filter the pressed fruit juice and to give more stability to the entire pressing process. In the juice kettle standing under the outlet, which holds 80 litres, the pure fruit juice collects. This is repeatedly poured into a large barrel to keep the juice kettle free. The soft-cooked fruit has now collapsed considerably. The hot mass is distributed as evenly as possible in the press vat and covered with linen sacks. To better pour out the dregs in the cooking kettle, the kettle is lifted from the oven with a crane. This crane is permanently installed on the barn wall. With a few ladles of juice, the remains of the fruit mass are loosened from the bottom and wall. The kettle is cleaned with water and a brush. It must be cleaned very thoroughly so that no fruit residues get into the kraut during the boiling down. This prevents contamination and reduces the danger of burning. The fruit juice is now poured back into the cooking kettle. The rectangular sieve consists of copper. The straining cloth that is placed in the copper sieve is a coarse mesh kitchen towel. It holds back the suspended matter from the juice and must be rinsed several times in a bucket of cold water during filtering. The oven on which the kraut is cooked is built into the floor of the barn. The fire opening has a diameter of 1.2 meters. A multi-step masonry staircase leads downward to the furnace door. Scrap wood is used for firing. Hawthorn, beech, and hazelnut are used as kindling, which remained from sweeping, that is, from trimming the hedges. Previously, one stoked with railroad briquettes. Because of the high heating value of the briquettes, one needed only half the cooking time. Today, however, this heating material is too expensive and makes production unprofitable for the sideline business. The cooking kettle is lifted back onto the oven with the help of the crane. The kraut cooker seals the joint between the kettle bottom and fire opening with sand. This sealing is important for the proper draft in the oven. When the fruit mass in the vat has settled somewhat, 3 pressing timbers are initially placed on top. The timbers, at least 3 to 4 centimeters thick, are cut so that they completely fill the vat diameter of 80 centimeters. Through the pressure generated by the weight of the pressing timbers, fruit juice again emerges more intensively. On the pressing timbers, additional square timber pieces are now laid as evenly as possible. When the required height is reached by laying the timbers, the spindle can be screwed down. The pressing takes about 2 to 3 hours, with pressing every quarter hour. 500 kilograms of fruit yield 300 liters of juice in this way. To ensure an even fire, wood must be added repeatedly. The boiling down of the juice to kraut takes about 7 to 8 hours. During this time, 300 liters of juice thicken to 60 to 70 kilograms of kraut. This means that 100 kilograms of fruit yield an average of 12 to 14 kilograms of kraut. The spindle is repeatedly screwed down further. The longer one presses, the less juice emerges, and the harder the pressing becomes. Therefore, the kraut cooker uses a longer pole as a lever. The lightly boiling fruit juice must be stirred occasionally so that it does not burn. During the last hour of cooking, stirring is continuous. After about 3 hours, the press is released again. After screwing up the spindle, the kraut cooker removes the individual pressing timbers from the vat. The vat, which sits loosely on the zinc-lined trough, is loosened and tipped backward onto the trough. Between the linen sacks are the pressing residues. These residues are called kettle. They are fed to the cattle. Kraut was counted in the 19th century among the most important foodstuffs, especially of the lower social classes. It was valued as a tasty and, above all, cheap sweetener. A differentiation developed over the decades through the production of more expensive fruit kraut. In many families, there was beet kraut on weekdays and fruit kraut on Sundays. In the post-war periods of the 20th century, kraut was a sought-after object of barter and trade. In the meantime, the fruit juice continues to boil down. Not only the 70 liters of water must evaporate, but also the liquid content in the juice. The Kraut cooker sells his finished product at the farm. He therefore supplies no intermediary. He offers the kraut in tin cans, into which the desired amount is filled. After about 8 hours, the gelling test takes place. The Kraut cooker fills some of the kraut into the testing dish and places it in a bucket of cold water to cool. After a few minutes, he checks the consistency of the kraut. Recognizing the right consistency requires much experience. If the kraut cools too much, it becomes firm. Therefore, the transfer into the jars must also be done quickly. When the kraut cooker has determined the right consistency, the kraut can be filled. For this, he uses Rhineland or Langerwehr jars. These storage vessels made of salt-glazed stoneware are rust brown in color and hold about 35 liters, or 70 pounds of kraut. So that the jars do not crack when filling with hot kraut, they are first preheated at the still heated oven. After the kettle is removed from the fire by crane, it remains on the floor for 15 minutes. Then the steam has dissipated and the kraut is transferred. The kraut cooker scoops the kraut with a handled pot from the cooking kettle into a jar, so that none of the product is lost. He places a brass drip guard over the kettle rim. The kraut cooking, as we have seen it on the Marquis farm, is hard work. The pouring of the fruit mass into the press, the pressing itself, and also the filling cost time and strength. In total, the work takes 2 days, which the kraut cooker performs alone. Therefore, kraut cooking, especially in agricultural sideline businesses, was mostly purely men's work. The stirring spoon consists of a wooden stick that has the shape of a dough scraper. With this, the slowly cooling kraut is scraped from the bottom and walls of the cooking kettle. The fruit kraut produced here has been boiled down without added sugar. In contrast, the Rhenish apple kraut available today may contain up to 25% sugar. Kraut, whether beet or fruit kraut, has recently enjoyed great popularity again, after it had been almost completely forgotten after World War II.